Hi everyone, welcome to Unbuttoned. Today we're going to take a little detour from our normal sort of episodes that we do, and we'd like to do one on sort of lockdown experiences. What has it been like to experience sex, sexuality, and intimacy during this lockdown period here in India? And of course, as usual, I'm joined by my friends Mojo and Cherry for this conversation.
Hello.
Hello.
Awesome. So, any stories to share, Mojo and Cherry, about this? How's it been like in your worlds?
It's been interesting. I think first couple of days, I think just getting used to it, right? Like I was thinking, like, how am I going to survive this, right? Like, social distancing, not meeting with people. And I kept constantly like imagining like are couples actually having sex or not? Because for me, at least, it's been like, I have to go find somebody to have sex with. But I was also thinking like, what are other people doing? And should I be jealous of them or not? Whatever. My initial thoughts at least were like, how am I going to survive this? But interestingly, it's been okay. It's I don't know what are some of the factors that have influenced that, because in the last couple of weeks, I think just given everything that's happening in the world, there are so many things. There is general stress. I feel a lot more stressed out. So I don't know. It's not been super top of mind, just wanting to have sex or anything. Having said that, it's not that I've, reduced on my phone consumption, right? So self-pleasure, masturbation, all of that is, still on track once in a while. But general need to kind of meet people also, I think it's the paranoia. I don't know if that's kind of making me feel it's okay not to meet anybody right now. I'm also not even going on the app to find people, right? So that way it's been okay. One interesting thing that happened was I met this one person a couple of times, and the person has been chatting, and I think he's been feeling the need to kind of make up for this sort of like lack of physical connection or all of that, right? So the person was suggesting, hey, let's do a video call and all of that. But for some reason, I am not as excited or interested in doing it, like I'm not feeling it for some reason. So I've kind of avoided it. What about you, Cherry?
That really resonates with me because I'm not feeling it is the right phrase here. I mean, we've talked about this before, how libido, my libido at least, turns out is pretty much in sync with my cycle, right? And, in the week leading up to my period, I often feel a lot more in the mood and excited. But in this case, I have to say even that hasn't really happened. In that I would really want to masturbate, or I'd be excited by certain images or whatever it is, or thoughts. And I'm just not feeling it, not in the mood. And yes, definitely one part of it is just the thought of spreading the virus or contracting it is a definite turn off for me, of course. I think that preemptively surgically strikes any feeling. But I have looked to, self-pleasure. Definitely that has happened. But I'm just saying that it didn't follow the sort of degree to which it normally does. I'm not saying I didn't feel horny at times. That's not what I'm saying. So I definitely have, and have gone ahead and self-serviced this vehicle. So that's happened. Porn usage, as a result, is still happening to service that. And there's a lot of fun facts been floating about how porn usage has gone up, mobile porn usage has gone up during this time. At some point, I'm not kidding, I think in the early days of the lockdown, or maybe like late February, early March, mid-March, I'm pretty sure that the government relaxed. It's got a little more lax about what porn sites were accessible, because we know that, using Wi-Fi, you can't access certain sites, or it's slow on your internet, on your mobile internet. So I was like, whoa, they're really supporting the masses. But unfortunately, I must report to you guys that has been rescinded for some reason, because it's not the same anymore. Things have gone back to normal, where certain things that were not accessible are again not accessible. So that's what I am. Yeah, that's the going anthem here, Mojo. not feeling it. Pixie?
I think for me, it's been really the two sort of aspects to this. Is one is sort of continuing to be intimate with my partner, who, while we both live in Bangalore, we live really far away from each other, and we weren't able to get to the same place for the lockdown. So we are separated, and I haven't seen my partner for almost a month now. And, otherwise we used to see each other every week. So I think there's one element of that in my experience so far. And the other element is just me with myself. So I'll share a little bit about my partner and what we've been doing, because it's quite hard actually to stay intimate when you're not together. It's like long distance, but this also has this other pressure of the stress and the anxiety that comes up with being in this lockdown situation where you can't go out much. So a couple of things that we've done, and I think it's kind of helped our relationship, and it's helped us to kind of be intimate and close to each other. One is sexting, for sure, gone up. Taking photos gone up too, which is not something that we used to do a lot. But I think that experience has kind of helped us through this month. A lot of the other things are more about just intimacy and, communicating with each other and being with each other. So we do things like, we wash dishes at the same time over Zoom in the morning, which is it's really cute, but it works. And we also have started to write letters to each other in the evening, like once every 2 days or something, whenever we feel like it. And we take a picture of the letter and we send it to the person. It's a handwritten letter. So again, things that you like, I haven't written a handwritten letter in a long time. And we like write poetry, or that's also really, really nice and heartwarming. We also do exercise. We exercise together, so we start exercising at the same time over Zoom, or we do something together. Definitely, we speak more on the phone and do more sort of Zoom calls. But we've kind of experimented with a couple of things just to see what works for us. Yeah, a couple of things that didn't work for us was, we tried to read a book at the same time. We chose one book and we said we'd read it together and discuss. That did not happen. So we learned that, okay, maybe that's not so much for us. But yeah, it's been kind of like a good space to be creative and innovative to see what works and how do we stay connected and continue to feel like we're actually, with each other rather than apart from each other. Of course, I miss the physical intimacy and the touch and just being able to, feel someone's hand or a body next to you. But I guess we'll make do for what we can right now. And I think we're also learning so much about ourselves as we stay separate. So it's been good fun, actually.
The idea about writing letters, that's some straight up parallel evolution of ideas. Because I thought about that as a very charming thing to do with somebody, let's say a romantic partner. I just thought that would be really fun. And I thought about it, I was like, we can't send letters because those workers are not, I actually don't know. That's something that I wanted to look up to see. Is a letter still being sent? I guess not in a full lockdown. So I thought about that. I was like, oh, so maybe you would write it. So you had that analog experience. And then you take a picture. And that's exactly what you're doing. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Just because the idea of letter writing, I've always loved it. And much like you, Pixie, it's been, I don't know how many years. But there's something really intimate about reading somebody's handwriting, like a handwritten note. And it's not just a note. It's not like some post-it. So how many have you guys exchanged?
By now, maybe, like, we started this last week. So maybe by now, like some 10 altogether. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be such a lovely collection to just look back on as well after once this all blows over. Maybe that's something you might just continue, right?
I'd like to see where this goes.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, like, I think really difficult periods in history have also led to some really amazing love stories. So believe it or not, I was thinking, like, what are some of those great love stories that will come out of this period, right? Like, how are other people like trying to make up for it, or just the angst of separation and all of that. So the other day I was thinking about it, but I'm already seeing what people are doing, so that's lovely.
Yeah, and I think it's really a good opportunity to be quite like I don't know, creative with what you do and try it all out. But yeah, I think the other side of this, of my stories, is also like sort of what I'm doing with myself. And of course, like masturbation and porn continues. But the other day I did something which I was so amazed by at how I felt. Was I was taking a shower and I decided to like turn off the lights in the bathroom and put a candle on and start listening to some really sexy music. And I started dancing in the bathroom and I felt so sexy. I came out of the bathroom and I decided that I was going to continue to dance to this really sexy music without my towel. And it felt so intimate with myself. It was almost like a lovely foreplay before I did anything. I just experimented with what it was like to be intimate with myself and love my body, staring at the mirror, watching myself move. At one point, I think I even took a scarf and just like wrapped it around myself. And it was, I really enjoyed it.
I mean, you must have said you felt like this great sense of liberation. Even if it's just you by yourself. How fun. That sounds really like an aha moment.
Yeah, it was. And I think, yeah, you're right, Cherry, that I felt like it was, I felt really freeing and I was really enjoying it.
This theme of like Mojo, both what you said just and also Pixie, the other side of how people are responding to this. I was also thinking of the flip, which is things that are not going that well because of the enclosure and being cooped up, thoughts around that. And how I think in some relationships, whatever different kinds of relationships, not necessarily only romantic ones, where a certain level of friendship or intimacy of that sort, familial intimacy and stuff, have also been strained sometimes, I think, during this time. And so one can well imagine. Yeah, I think it goes both. I think I'm hearing stories going both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Triumph in romantic relationships, but also, fights.
Yeah.
Or, even if you're people who are in different cities and stuff, you're doing long distance, let's say, for example, whereas that's normal to have just chats or calls or whatever, but somehow just being cooped up is bringing out a sort of, I don't think that's insane to expect that. Just some negativities and vibes coming out and people finally hitting, the ceiling, or just they're hitting their, they're reaching the end of their tether, so to speak. And everyone has a different length at which they hit that point where they suddenly snap and things are coming to a head. So you guys, have you been feeling some of that, and how are you working around that?
Yeah, I think I've been hearing that about that at least, right? I think just the number of cases of domestic violence and all I've heard have gone up, and it is this sort of like being cooped up. I think it's acting on people's minds in different ways, and also I know of a friend who like again is in a long distance and they're having problems, and I don't know if it's you can directly attributable to this, but just kind of like people are feeling different things. And I was reading an article, right, which said to some extent I think all of us are grieving in some way because it's something that we haven't experienced before. So just to whatever level, I think a lot of people are having signs of depression symptoms, all of that. So I think there is an other level of requirement and need for us to be intimate with ourselves and do things for ourselves, take care of in whatever way, be it meditating or journaling or just dancing away like Pixie just mentioned. So yeah, I think there is that need for self-care and mental and well-being and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I also feel like there's another part also is just to be more empathetic towards individuals. Like these are some of the things that I've been like from friends that I've heard from. Things like, being cooped up in the same place, doing everything, everybody's working, everybody's cleaning. If you have kids, additional sort of school responsibilities now have come up. And, I've really heard of how much there's a need of empathy to just sit down and say, okay, I hear you, I understand where you're coming from. Even with each other, to recognize that this is quite stressful. So yeah, I think both of you are right in the sense that there is the other side to this whole thing as well. I do feel grateful though that there's so many resources, or at least we know that more and more resources are coming up. We've seen a lot of mental health sort of organizations provide helplines and all of that. So I'm hoping that this also sort of fills a need and allows for like us to be quite innovative with how we support people. So yeah.
One of the things that was just said, I'm not sure which one of you just said it, but taking care of yourself, I mean, just bringing that together, I just thought about how I think that would be true for me as well, personally, but certainly I'm sure it would resonate with a lot of others, is that, I mean, until you take care of yourself, I don't know that the love will emanate outwards, right? No matter what kind of relationship you're building, romantic, familial, whatever, other flatmate, whatever it is, right? Long distance with your parents. I mean, that's also kind of long distance. But as we think and focus on, let's say, romantic relationships, or any kind of romantic relationship, whatever format, postmodern format, that self-love is so important. Now, whether it even translates to masturbation also definitely checks the box. But taking time for yourself, there's so many like these Instagram handles that have been popping up, and I'm starting to follow them, whether it's anxiety healing or healer, or find my well-being, stuff like that are constantly putting out things to remind you to pause and take a moment for yourself. And I'm realizing that would help with this, right? The more centered you are is when then it won't sort of spill over into, somebody else. Like when you're talking to someone else on a phone, those high levels of stress or anxiety, or, whatever it is you're going through, maybe you're able to focus on yourself first. Then you're able to bring that to that relationship as well. And even if not, you can be the person who receives another person's needs, right? If the person that you're speaking to is experiencing whatever level of stress, right up to depression or whatever it is, then as long as you've given yourself some love and you're centered, maybe you'd be even better at receiving that kind of storytelling from the other person, right?
Yeah, true.
Right. I was actually wondering, maybe it would be useful for our listeners to hear maybe what are some of the one or two things that we do for ourselves, in addition to whatever we've already spoken about. So, Mojo, is there anything that you do for yourself, or that you've been doing for yourself in this time?
Yeah, I want to say two things. One is just doubling down on my routine, right? Just, I think, having a proper routine where I'm much more regular at exercising now, and I feel really good about myself. I think I'm consciously eating more healthy, journaling. And I think that all these things are really, I think when they come together, I think they're very empowering and in a lot of ways. And I think also the past couple of days have been stressful for other reasons, work and all of that. So that way, I think having this sort of routine has really kind of helped me, mostly journaling, meditating, and exercising, and also throwing in a little bit of reading, right? So I would never try to make time for, though I bought all these books or, purchased audiobooks, I don't actively make a lot of time. But now, even that 5-10 minutes I spend just reading 2 pages, it's that sort of feeling of accomplishment. I think that's definitely one thing. So routine. The other thing is just I've been catching up on a lot of like TV shows and movies, but something that's been fascinating is kind of revisiting some of these movies. I'm kind of leaning towards a lot of like romantic movies as well, and some classics, if you will. It's been interesting in terms of an exercise, because I'm also kind of revisiting how my ideas of life and love and romance have changed over the years, right?
I gotta say ditto on the TV stuff. I think you both know, I finally caved and got Netflix. Yeah. I know many was too late, but I finally got it, and I've been just lapping up this lovely, delicious show called Easy, which Pixie, you'd mentioned to us a while back. And another friend brought this back on my radar, and so I started watching it, and it's been this wonderful exploration of different kinds of human relationships, romantic, non-romantic, and otherwise. So it's been really lovely. But my me time, what I've turned to is music. And I'm not setting any goals for myself, but I am trying to learn as many new pieces of music as possible. So it's rewiring the brain to start reading a different kind of language, which is music. And I have to say that it turns out I completely rusted on that. And so it's like a relearning process. I feel like I'm still in kindergarten with that kind of reading. And so that's been a really fun way to refocus my energies and focus where my brain is going. That's what I've been doing, and I think that's been working. Pixie, what about you? What are some things other than dancing in bathrooms? What are the other whimsical things that have been also occupying your space, your headspace?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, besides all of this, and keeping up a routine, which is quite important to me, one thing that I've been really trying to do is to be playful, even if it's at home. So I try and do things that I, think are playful in nature. So sometimes I skip around the house, which has been quite fun. I also end up doing random sort of cooking things, which without a recipe, which for me is a big deal because I love to follow a recipe. So I'm quite, again, playful with what I'm doing in the kitchen. So yeah, I'm trying to find an element of play sort of in at least once a day so that I can laugh at myself and just, spend a little bit of a light moment with myself. And that's something new, which I haven't really done that much in the past. So yeah.
That's a lovely idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that idea of being playful.
Yeah, so I guess here's more to self-care and hopefully these kind of behaviors stay on with us even after this.
Yeah, on that note, taking care. I hope all of you are taking care and see you on the other side.
Absolutely. I mean, it is getting hot, right? Weather-wise. But here's to cranking up the hotness of our experiences in other ways, if you know what I mean. Because I'm telling you now, guys, this heat is starting to get to me.